And I got caught watching it on the laptop again, which has a little delay there. So we are back for another broadcast. You're listening to Hardcore Harry, and I am Death to the New World Order. We may have a bit of a slower frame rate here for the first few minutes of the broadcast, as I have a lot of video downloading for tonight's show. We're going to go ahead and start off with an article or two while we wait for that video to come in. And in my opinion, and for other people this may not be the case, but to me, one of the most important news stories going on right now, and we'll go to the 3D mix, is the sudden crackdown on file sharing. Now, for those out there who don't quite understand what file sharing is, I'll give you a little bit of a history on the practice. A lot of you may remember the days of Napster, where people were exchanging music, copyrighted music, online for free. And, it wasn't all copyrighted, but, 99% of it was, of course. And if you heard a song on the radio, or you saw a song on TV, MTV, whatever, you'd be like, oh, I want that song. So you get Napster and you download it and you'd have it. And the way Napster worked is they actually had a central server that stored the music in it. And then everyone downloaded the music from that server. They shut Napster down, and they could do that because the company, or whatever it was, Napster, was actually physically holding the files and handing them out to people, letting people take from them. And after that, the technique got a little bit more complex in that there was no longer any central server. And at that point in time, the terminology changed largely to torrents. And there were things like BitTorrent. I use one called uTorrent. And I probably shouldn't admit that. There's eDonkey, eMule, all these different programs that do this. LimeWire. I'm not going to run through them all. But file sharing amounts to you're using a program, using an interface to go over the internet and tap into various sources to download files, be it music, movies, software, a text file, a PDF, an ebook, and so on. And the way that it is done now is the information that you're downloading is not all located on one central server, and a lot of the programs will tell you, you're downloading this file from 13 different people right now, and you're downloading little bits and pieces of the file from various different people. So by the time you get, let's say, a song that's 5 megabytes, you might have got it from 13, 15, 60 different people, and only got a tiny little bit of that song from each person. And it is not held on any central server. So it's called peer-to-peer, or P2P, peer-to-peer. Because you are also sharing the data. While you're downloading that song, the pieces of the song that you already have, you're uploading to other people. And so you are also a peer on this network. And that's why it's called peer-to-peer network, or peer-to-peer file sharing. So there is no central server where the file is stored for them to go after. In order to stop it, they have to go after everyone. And evidently that's what they're getting ready to try. And in order to do this, they are going to have to go through the internet service providers. Of course, we knew this was coming. We always knew this was coming. And I'll be honest with you, I've already downloaded the entire internet. Anything I'm interested in, I already have. What's the latest? Adobe Creative Suite 6, I believe it's called. I mean, if I want it, I take it. And I'll tell you why. Just as I've come to discover that, there is no such thing as entertainment. All of the Hollywood movies we just had the Oscars the other night. I played a clip from it on the air. And interestingly, that entire broadcast from yesterday is blocked worldwide because of a few seconds I played of them doing singing a song and doing a dance about showing people their boobies. They blocked my broadcast worldwide. So, it's pretty messed up. It's okay for them to go on primetime television at a world premiere event and literally do a song and dance about how they saw everybody's boobies who's a famous Hollywood actress. But if I show that clip on my broadcast and show people how they're degrading society doing this, My entire broadcast is blocked worldwide. And I mean, I'm going off a little bit on a tangent, but I mean, where are they going to draw the line between what they can copyright, what they can claim as copyright, what they can block you for, punish you for, throttle you for? If I walk out of a movie theater and I tell somebody about the movie, but I'm a little too descriptive, am I breaking the law? One day it may be the case. I believe this entire issue speaks to the notion of freedom. I really do. And it's also a privacy thing. They're literally monitoring the data that is going into your computer, the data that is coming out of your computer. They know what you're doing. They know what you're seeing. They know what you're thinking. And in my opinion, this whole file sharing thing that they're trying, it's an excuse to ration, not to throttle. They don't want to throttle your internet. They want to ration the internet overall. And what you'll see is you'll see new internet service provider plans coming out with just phenomenal speeds as the people who are doing file sharing get throttled more and more. So they're going to make more money at it. Anyway, we got an article here. Let's read the article. Let me enlarge in the text a little bit, and I don't have any video on this per se yet, but starting this week, internet service providers will start throttling connection speeds for
network may contain
customers.
copyrighted
Starting
material,
this week,
the use of which has not always been specifically authorized by the copyright owner.
they will start throttling
We make
connection
this
speeds for
available in our
customers alleged
efforts
to be
advance understanding
pirating
of criminal
copyright
justice,
protected
political,
materials.
human rights, economic,
Months after a controversial
scientific,
six-strike
and
program
social
was
justice
slated to be
issues.
rolled out by the biggest
This
internet service
constitutes the fair
providers in the
use of
United
any
States.
such
The Copyright
copyrighted
Alert
material as
System
provided for in
confirmed
Section
on Monday that the
107 of the
initiative
U.S.
has
Copyright Law.
gone live.
In
The
accordance with
program,
Title 17
critiqued by
U.S.C.
internet
Section
freedom
107,
activists and
the
privacy
material on this site
advocates
is distributed
alike
without
will let
profit to
internet
those who have
service
expressed
providers
a prior interest in receiving the
fuck.
information.
I'm supposed to be wearing this. What just happened? And we're back. Yeah. It's kind of messed up because I'm running this network and I've got to set up different stages that a broadcaster has to navigate through as they get more professional with what they're doing the stuff in the background before they're called a premier broadcaster and can be in HD on the HD on the HD stream. And myself, I'm a complete newbie at this. If you'd think I had a spot there, but I missed it, I guess. Anyway, I'm sorry. Now, I can tell you, when I was living down south, I had an internet service provider called Comcast. And this was years ago. They emailed me twice and said, I don't remember what it said, but it was something about, you got to stop doing this because we caught you downloading this Hollywood movie. They did it twice. This had to have been, well, I moved up here 5 years ago, so we're talking 7, 8, 9 years ago. Probably 8 years ago. 8 years ago, Comcast was already monitoring the files that I was downloading. And of course, I completely ignored them. And in fact, I remember having a phone conversation with them in which they were harassing me because I was downloading files. And I told them I wasn't doing it, that a neighbor came over and put a hard drive in my computer and he must be the one that was doing it. What could they do, So that's how I handled it then. But now they're saying that, and I'll move on with this article, I guess. They're going to go ahead and start throttling your internet, and those kind of excuses are not going to work. What are you going to do? You go to Denny's, use their Wi-Fi to download your files. Denny's gets a notice from their internet service provider saying, why are you downloading this movie? And Denny's going to be like, well, I'm not downloading that movie. It must be people using the Wi-Fi. Then they're going to have to stop letting people use free Wi-Fi, or they'll throttle it to the point where you can't really make use of it. Anyway, the program, critiqued by internet freedom activists and privacy advocates alike, will let internet service providers take 6 steps of escalating severity and handling incidents where customers are believed to illegally sharing material. Though the graduate response approach suspected through the graduated response approach, suspected copyright criminals copyright criminals, wow, could be issued a series of warnings for illegally downloading protected content. With the first strike caught by the CAS, a customer could be issued a warning. As strikes increase, however, mitigation measures, connection speed, throttling, and termination of service are all possible options. Now, if you're an internet service provider, are you going to cancel a customer's subscription because they're downloading files? I don't know that they will. And I think that in the long run, as a person who does file sharing, that's one of our videos coming in now. I think that basically you can set your program not to use over a certain amount of bandwidth, and if you keep it under that, your internet service provider, all right, this guy's downloading files, but he's not really a bandwidth hog, so we'd like to keep him on here because we want his money every month. And they probably won't cut you off. It's going to be an evolving process to see how they handle these things. With the first strike caught by the CAS, a customer could be issued a warning. And I've already got 2 of those warnings by Comcast, Cable Down South. I kept doing it. As strikes increase, however, mitigation measures, connection... I already read that. Practically speaking, this means our content partners will begin sending notices of alleged P2P, peer-to-peer copyright infringement to internet service providers and the Whoa. This means our content partners will begin sending notices to internet service providers. Well, how does somebody find out you're downloading files if they are not your internet service provider? Our content partners, who or what are the content partners? Sounds to me like they're basically going to use file sharing as an excuse to spy on your internet usage under the pretense that they're looking for copyright. Anyway, long story short, if you're file sharing, be warned, they put this crap in place and they're going to try and stop you from file sharing. What am I going to do? I guess that's probably the big question here. And what I'm going to do is probably, look, I've already got, like I said, the entire internet. Anything I want, I have. So I'm going to stop using my file sharing software for the time being, and when I really need a file, if I ever really need another file, and I will, I'll go ahead and fire it back up and download the file that I need and shut it back off. And then see if I get a warning. So that's that. Now it sounds like we had at least one file come in, but as you can see, we have a lot of files still trying to come in. Let's see. Let me monitor these real quick. That one's done. Done. This is what was killing our bandwidth. And this is ATube Catcher. We have this one still working here. You can run multiple instances of ATube Catcher, but you got to have a fast computer. And mine, while it was the fastest computer I've ever heard of, I guess nowadays it's starting to bog down a little bit when I do too much, but I've got a lot going on here. So I've got one file remaining to download, and that is the Downfall of the Vatican, which is probably disinformation that we're going to examine. The rest of them are done, so I'm going to go on screen, transfer these files, and we're going to start going over them. Thusly, we go into the video editing software, get you back on the main window, bust open all of the YouTube downloads, and we highlight all of them that are coming in from today, with the exception of the disinformation about the downfall of the Vatican, which is right there. And we transfer them all to the file sharing program, or to the video editing program, and we're done. So now what I'm going to do, for those of you who may be wanting to broadcast on the network, is I'm going to lay them into the timeline for tonight's broadcast. And we're already a couple minutes into the broadcast, but We have a little bit on women's lib that we're going to go over. And this actually is based off a video that Mark Dice did. So it should be pretty interesting. And it's a really, I think it's good. Now, a lot of people are trash talking Mark Dice lately. And I spent time with him, you know. He can come off a little bit arrogant to people who don't don't know him and stuff. But so can I. I mean, I've had people tell me that I'm arrogant, so I'm not going to say anything negative about that. A lot of people who work hard to accomplish great things are going to tend to come off that way because they're proud of the work that they've done or that they continue to do. All right, I'm just throwing this stuff in here just in random places, and we're just going to have a show that's rather random-like. Doesn't look like it. You know, some of these are too big to fit, frankly. They're just too big. So I'll get them in here as best I can. We'll roll out with that tune, and it looks like most of them are in here. So we're going to start with this video with Mark Dice, and again, I really like it. I don't pay attention to a lot of things Mark Dice does, but this one went around pretty good, and it caught my eye. And a lot of people will say, well, this is demonizing women, or this is a negative thing for people to, do this to women, to go up and ask them what kind of screwdriver is it. And I commented on Facebook, what he does here is no different than going up to a man and saying, is this a pot or a pan? A lot of men don't know the difference between a pot and a pan. And obviously he edited out all of the, and if a woman knew the difference between a Phillips screwdriver and a regular screwdriver, he edited that out. Still, though, I have to say I think the point was made. It is entertaining and it's interesting to watch. So let's check it out.
Many feminists today want to be more like men. So let's test their knowledge of tools to find out if they know anything or if they're just tools themselves. Do you know anything about tools?
Not really.
Is this a Phillips screwdriver or a flathead?
A screwdriver. Right?
Phillips or a flathead? What kind?
Phillips?
How do you know?
I don't.
You're just guessing?
Yes.
You asked the wrong person.
You don't know?
No.
It's a Phillips head. Is this a Phillips or a flathead?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Phillips.
Phillips, bud. Got it.
Phillips.
Is this a left-handed screwdriver or a right-handed screwdriver?
I would say right.
Why is that? It's just another guess. Because you got 50-50 chance of getting it right.
Exactly.
I don't know. Right?
Is this a left-handed wrench or a right-handed wrench?
Dear Lord. Left or right?
I don't know. Left? Is that your question?
You just guess or
Yeah.
you're just a guess?
Yes, I did.
Okay. We're not going to give you the answer.
Oh.
It's both. It's the ambidextrous.
Hey.
Yeah, it's a special kind. They're about 20% more, the ambidextrous wrenches,
Okay.
but they are available.
Very good to know.
We're talking about tools. Flathead or Phillips?
Phillips.
Got it. Is this a left-handed wrench or a right-handed wrench?
I don't know.
You want to take a closer look at it?
Right?
Why do you think that?
I don't know.
Just guessing.
Yeah.
Man, all these short people are the reason I need a chiropractor. Okay, a left-handed or a right-handed wrench?
Right.
What makes you think that?
I don't know.
I'm holding it in my left hand.
Yeah, but it looks awkward if you do it with your left hand.
I'll flip it around there. Hint. It's in my left hand.
Okay, left.
Okay, left.
Right-handed, I would say.
You're just guessing, aren't you?
Yes.
Are we going to meet for dinner at 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock tonight?
I have a boyfriend, but
How long you been with him?
close to a year. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I'll just keep looking.
Okay, thank you.
Is this a left-handed wrench or a right-handed wrench?
No, I don't know. Left-handed, I think.
It's only because I'm holding my left hand, right? Is this a left-handed screwdriver or a right-handed screwdriver?
Ambidextrous screwdriver.
Either. Correct. All right, thank you.
I have no idea. I don't use wrenches.
Don't use wrenches.
No,
It's a man's job.
not necessarily. I just am not that
You've never used a wrench?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
But
Well, I
left-handed
don't
or
know.
right-handed? How's your high fructose corn syrup flavored water?
Oh, it's awesome.
Delicious?
You need a little caffeine every now and then.
And some cavities. Cavities in a can.
Cavities? No. No. Who are you with?
We're just with YouTube.
Oh, how fun.
Well, looks like they weren't the sharpest tools in the shed, just a bunch of tools. I'm Mark Dice, subscribe to the channel, thanks for watching, and there's more videos on the way.
All right, so interesting clip there from Mark Dice, and a lot of people would say, well, it's divisive, but I mean, we know the New World Order did design. All right, that's enough, Mark, come on. We know the New World Order did design and engineer the women's... God damn. Let me just move that ahead. Outro is a little bit long. The New World Order did design and engineer the women's movement, women's rights, suffrage. I've, shown on air at least twice, I think, how women were even deceived into starting to smoke. And this was Philip Morris going to Edward Bernays and saying, well, we got a problem. We need everybody smoking, not just men. And Edward Bernays said, well, let me talk to a, what's he called? Psychoanalyst? And I'm not going to go into all. I've talked about it on air, and most of you probably know. But anyway, so what really is the truth about the women's movement? Because, we all live under the false history we were taught in our schools, really. That's the truth of it. Everybody thinks that blacks won the right to vote, that the civil rights era resulted in that kind of thing, failing to understand that everything that happens by design, that there are people behind the scenes in control of everything, that the decision was made at the highest levels. We're going to go ahead and do this. Let's go ahead and free the slaves. Let's go ahead and let the blacks vote. Let's go ahead and, let women in the workplace. I mean, just go on down the list. They make all these decisions, and we're going to hear from Aaron Russo about this now, a statement that I think some of you have probably seen before, but I don't know, how educated my audience is, and so we're going to take a look at it again right now.
One of the things they told me was that he was at the house one night, and we were talking, and he started laughing. He said, Aaron, what do you think women's liberation was about? And I said, I'm pretty... one of the things they told me was that he was at the house one night, and we were talking, and he started laughing. He said, Aaron, what do you think women's liberation was about? And I said, I'm pretty conventional thinking about it at that point. I said, I think it's about women having the right to work, getting equal pay with men, just like they won the right to vote, And he started to laugh. He said, you're an idiot. And I said, why am I an idiot? He said, let me tell you what that was about. We, the Rockefellers, funded that. We funded Women's Lib, And we're the ones who got it all over the newspapers and television, the Rockefeller Foundation. He says, and you want to know why? He said, there were two primary reasons. And one reason was we couldn't tax half the population before Women's Lib. And the second reason was, now we get the kids in school at an early age. We can indoctrinate the kids how to think. It breaks up their family. The kids start looking at the state as the family, as the school, as the officials, as their family, not as the parents teaching them. And so those are the two primary reasons for Women's Lib, which I thought up to that point was a noble thing. When I saw their intentions behind it, where they were coming from when they created it, the thought of it, I saw the evil behind what I thought was a noble venture.
Aaron, did you know that Gloria Steinem, in one of her own books, now admits the CIA funded Miss Magazine?
No, I had no idea about that. No, I never heard that.
Yeah, we're going to...
CIA funded Miss Magazine?
Funded Miss Magazine with the stated goal of taxing women and breaking up the family.
No kidding. I never heard that. Well, Nick told me. I mean, I know it, but not because I know the CIA was involved in it.
Well, Gloria Steinem was proud of it. Oh, the CIA wanted to help me help women.
No
and
kidding.
So they funded it, yeah. And of course, it's divide and conquer.
Right,
And
of course.
what they do is they focus in, obviously, on real problems. Women were getting shafted in many ways, but the elite wasn't planning to help them. They were planning to really shaft them and take men away from them. Look at what they did with black families. You only had about 10% illegitimacy 50 years ago in black communities, and now it's over 90%. And look at welfare. You were going to give you some money, but you can't have a man in the house.
Right.
And so that was further to degrade the family. Totally destroyed. And now illegitimacy is over 50% in the general population.
Right. Well, see, the whole thing is these people control the money, so they make all the rules. You understand? And they put whatever rules they want into effect.
Truth Broadcast Network is not responsible for the content of independent broadcasters. We are a loose affiliation of activists bonded together by our common struggle. As such, the network is here to act as a central hub for truth activism. The network is here to aid both those creating content and those searching for it. All broadcasters act independently and they connect through the network. Broadcasters have no control over the network and the network has no control over them. There is no liability on the part of any broadcaster for any action or statement that is not their own.
All right, now for the record, of course, I'm joking when I say that I engage in file sharing. Everything, that I use is bought legally. It is all above board. And on Truth Broadcast Network, we just can't afford to take any of those kinds of risks. But I do think that it is a relevant topic. All people who are doing file sharing are doing is exchanging ones and zeros, bits of information. And where do they draw the line between you're violating our copyright, or okay, you can't exchange that information even though you're talking about our movie, or you drew a picture of one of the characters from our movie? Where exactly are they going to draw the line on this? We've seen, for instance, that YouTube clips get removed from copyright because they have a song in somebody else's house, like a neighbor is playing a stereo, playing a specific song, and because your YouTube clip, like you're just taking a video of your dog, you can hear that song in the background, your clip gets removed. And I got to tell you, I'm fed up with that. I'm on my 3rd YouTube channel now. It's like as soon as you build up a bunch of subscribers, they block your videos, delete your channel, you got to go somewhere else, start from scratch. And it more and more seems like a tool to me that they can, selectively enforce copyright issues in order to shut down the people whose information they just don't want getting out. The copyright is the excuse that they can use to shut you down. That's what it seems like to me. I'm not saying it is. I'm saying that's what it seems like, and somebody else apparently has a take on this, so let's see what he has to say. And then we'll follow that with a tune by Payday Monsanto that I'm probably not supposed to play because I'm violating copyright, but I talked to Payday Monsanto and they said they're cool with it. Literally, I talked to them.
All right, so I wanted to talk really quick about this 6-strike plan that the internet service providers are rolling out, and kind of, talk about the bad and the good with this stuff. Really, there is not much good other than it may stop some people from stealing stuff. It's the internet, though. People are going to download content, and there's nothing you can do about it, really. So they started this 6-strike plan, which basically means that the internet companies are going to start throttling people back when they start BitTorrenting. And then basically you get 6 strikes. Each strike, different things happen. You have to go through this, that, and the other loopholes and stuff, and to get your internet speed back. Meaning the internet companies are going to be able to use that bandwidth somewhere else, and basically you're paying for internet that you can't use. So it's just there's a bunch of weird stuff to it. Also, like if you get a strike against your account, say you downloaded something like a YouTube video, And they say, well, you don't own that content, so that's a strike. Well, who's to say that you don't own that content? You know, they can just say, whatever, that's a strike against you. And then say you do own the right to it. Well, you have to pay $35 to basically rebut that strike. That's non-refundable, of course, because that's just another way for the companies to make a little extra cash. It's all about money. So you got this 6-strike plan that's going into effect. There's a lot of companies here involved. Those companies are major ISPs, including AT&T, Cablevision, Verizon, Time Warner Cable, which is Time Warner, and Comcast. Basically, there's probably going to be other companies coming on board soon, and this is just starting in the U.S., so I'm sure that it will blanket out across the globe pretty soon, and they will try to basically, make some money and try to stop traffic. This is I am not going to say that I've never BitTorrented or stolen software. I'm a freaking network guy. Yes, I have stolen operating systems and tried them out, Microsoft operating systems. I've run illegally many different types of programs, especially stuff that is really expensive that I can't afford, like programs that cost $1,000. It's not something that I would continually use though, because it's like if I can't afford it and I can't use it, then why would I keep using it? I like to own the software that I have, and but that in case in point, there are people who can't afford stuff, and so that's what they do. They torrent it, they download it, they use it. Those same people may be like me, because I used to be basically a full-on pirate. I basically downloaded everything that I could find on the internet, and I had terabytes upon terabytes of data. I no longer have a lot of stuff. I threw away reams and reams of CDs, got rid of a bunch of stuff, and basically the stuff that I use now is mainly the stuff that I own, that I bought, and try to keep it legit. I'm not going to say that I don't still torrent, because if I have a movie, this is the thing that gets weird, and this is where some gray areas. If I have a movie and I bought the disc, I don't actually have the right to download that media in DivX format off the internet, although I do own a license to that movie, which is the gray area. Who's to say that I can't download that and have it instead of like putting the disc in and basically ripping it to DivX myself? Because it takes a lot longer to rip it in and then convert it. You're using a lot more processing power than it would be just to download it. So, there you have that gray area. There's a way around this too. There are several different ways around this. One of them is setting up a secure tunnel between a seed box. Basically, from your computer to the seed box, you're going to set up an encrypted FTP tunnel, and that means that the data will be transferred in a way that the internet service provider cannot tell what it is. They just see traffic and data moving, which probably will, will end in them throttling you back, because they don't know what it is. They may say, "Oh, he's torrenting," or "He's stealing data," even though we can't see what it is. But you can still do that, and what you would do is you would set up a seed box on the internet. What a seed box is basically it's a bit of bandwidth and hard drive space on a server in an outlying area, like in the Netherlands or in France, and basically you download your torrents there, and then you would FTP in and then download them from there to your house. So you're not actually BitTorrenting or torrenting the data. You torrent it there and then download it. So there's always ways around all this stuff. There's always going to be a way. This whole copyright thing that's going on the internet. You know, no matter what these companies do, they're not going to stop the torrent traffic. They're not going to stop people from stealing software and songs and music. It's just not going to happen. I mean, you can all day long say that, you know, I can't steal this, or I can't download all this information or whatever, and I could go to my friend's house that has like all these albums and then rip them into my computer, you know, and not even own them. You know, it goes back to the days when I was a kid, and like if you didn't have your friend bought a tape and you just made a copy of it, so you basically made a dub of it, and then you had a copy of that tape. You know, it's the same thing. It's been going on for years. It's just a different medium to it. And all these people are like, oh, it cost, you know, J-Lo didn't make $50 billion because you guys BitTorrented, you know, whatever. That's bullshit, because a lot of these companies are making freaking money hand over fist. A lot of the music that I listen to now lately is music that I got by touring stuff and listening to the band and see if I like it. Or I listen to them on the internet, download the album, see how many songs I like, and then download, you know, whatever I liked, and then I would go and, you know, purchase that music. But, you know, and then I would buy albums after that, like 3 or 4 albums after that. But it's just, I think it's dumb. You're not going to really stop this in general. It's just a waste of time. It's a complete waste of time. But the internet company's going to make money off of it, so it doesn't matter, you know. It's just another...
All right, well, I think that guy has outlived his usefulness here on the network. So let's do a station break. Roll probably a copyrighted tune, but I have permission. And we'll move on from there.
We would like to thank all who tune in, and especially all who bring others to the network so that we can unplug them from the false reality. Remember, you can show people how to tune in on their cell phones by searching their internet radio application for TBN. Truth Broadcast Network would especially like to thank its tireless broadcasters who sacrifice their time, energy and resources working against the enemy. There is a price to pay for their selfless efforts enlightening the world. Thus we thank broadcasters, and ask the audience to be supportive by spreading the word about the live broadcasts and spreading the archives as much as possible.
And we are back. That was Payday Monsanto with National Emergency. Makes me sound like a DJ saying that, but you know, a lot of people believe that America really does not have any religion, but if you look at what people are trained like dogs to obsess about, one might make the argument that America's religion is actually the quote-unquote war on terror. And that is where we're going next. But all the crusading and invading simply plays into Al-Qaeda's hands, just ask the French. Al-Qaeda is, of course, funded by the New World Order. And, I mean, you can look at Reagan in Central America. Even back then, he was committing terrorist atrocities against civilians in Central America, but nobody saw it for what it was. Maybe there are people older than me who back in that day saw it for what it was, and when 9/11 occurred, could see that for what it was, already having the understanding that America was a terrorist nation, and it is. And there are probably people who will come across this broadcast on YouTube saying, well, what is this guy? Is he a terrorist? Because he's saying America is a terrorist nation. But I mean, if you looked at the amount of money that we spend on our military, it's unbelievable. We spend more on our military than almost the rest of the world combined. And there's no reason for it. There's no excuse for it. I mean, we have Canada bordering our north. They're not exactly a threat. And we have the Mexicans to the south. Most of them just want a roof over their heads and clean running water. We have no enemies. And so, in order to control the population, they literally have to make enemies out of whole cloth. The people must be kept in a state of fear. And so the New World Order and our government controlled by the New World Order literally create. Why do you think it's always FBI stops a bomb plot? And where'd they get the bomb? From the fucking FBI every single time. It's always the FBI providing the explosives. So who really are the terrorists? And constantly we see them scraping the bottom of the barrel to find somebody stupid enough to fall for the entrapment. And that's what it is. It's entrapment. Let's check out this article. Mohammed al-Zawahiri, younger brother of Osama bin Laden's successor, Ayman, made a particularly intriguing statement in Cairo last month, talking to that wonderful French institution, Le Journal du Dimanche, about Mali. He asked the paper to warn France and to call upon reasonable French people and wise men not to fall into the same trap as the Americans. France is held responsible for having occupied a Muslim country. She has declared war on Islam, she being France. And, you know, this is interesting because we saw today Michael Savage was on Alex Jones' radio program. Just the same as Joseph Farah of WorldNetDaily.com was on Alex Jones' radio program. And they support the war on terror. They support droning people overseas. They support the notion that Muslims are evil, bloodthirsty people that are out to kill us. How can Alex Jones interview somebody who believes these things, who posts these things on their website, who rants about these things on their radio program and not say, hey, do you really think the Muslims are out to kill us? How can he bring somebody on air and not ask them that question? Not bring up the fact that these terrorist attacks are designed and engineered by the New World Order. I mean, what, you think the Muslims are so incompetent they forgot how to make real bombs? And that's why you have the New York Times fizzle bomb, the underwear bomber that didn't go off, the shoe bomber that didn't go off? The Muslims just forgot how to build bombs? No. These are psychological operations. After 9/11, they don't have to actually blow anything up. They just have to lead you to believe that they were trying. And you will cower in fear. Bend over and let them...
This video,
what the fuck
unbelievable stuff. Censorship, invasion of privacy, corporate greed, you name it.
Yeah.
Internet control. My God. Internet users who illegally share music, movies, or television shows online could soon receive warning notices from nation's 5 major internet providers. Basically, if you're sharing movies, music, television shows, software, okay, pictures, they will literally slow your internet down and then soon turn your internet off. Okay, you will not be able to use the internet. You will get notices in the mail. The internet provider, the internet company will give you 6 chances. Okay, 6 chances, and then they'll temporarily slow your internet connection. The internet companies internet providers want to censor your stuff. They want to be the police. I mean, who gave them that right? You know, this is insane. I mean, people just sit there. No one gives a crap. The internet company. This is not Big Brother. This is not the government. This is the internet company going out there and trying to censor your stuff. Go through your files, personal files, stuff you do online. You know, I feel like what privacy we have left, if there is any privacy left, we're losing it by the minute. These corporations have no right. These corporations have way too much power. No regulations. Every single thing you do, say, places that you go is being stored in massive databases by these corporations. And we're in the beginning stages of this stuff. People are talking about internet IDs. Every human being having an internet ID. That the only way you can connect to the internet is you gotta have this internet ID, kind of like a driver's license. Only your privileges can be revoked. If they don't like something that you do, say, you lose your internet privileges.
All right, so sorry about that kind of cutting into what I was saying, but You know, it brings us to an interesting tangent that we're now going to explore, and that is the connection between, we'll call them inside jobs and file sharing. Because if you've really looked into these things, you understand that, in fact, the file sharing programs are an inside job. So let's put Napster I don't know of any articles specific on this, but I'm betting somebody somewhere has wrote about this. They better have. Let's try. Oh boy. File sharing is an inside job. Somebody has to have wrote something about this, because it is, in fact, let me get you on screen, the companies that are trying to come after you now who wrote the software that you're using. And I think there's people that don't know this, and it looks like almost, if not completely, nobody ever wrote about it. Yeah. We're having trouble pulling up information about this. Unbelievable. So you're just going to have to take my word for it, I guess. I could have swore somebody somewhere wrote something about the file sharing being an inside job, but I guess we're just going to skip that. We're going to have to skip it. So we're going to go ahead and move on to, well, I guess another cool song. We're going to have a little bit of music tonight.
If all you do is post on Facebook, you are hiding your information from the real world and the real internet. Nothing will ever come up in a search engine. If you want to avoid being censored, blocked or shut down, then post on Truth Broadcast Network. You can then share the professional web pages inside the free speech zone. This way your material will come up in search engines, and it will exist inside and outside the free speech zone. Facebook is a trap. Empower yourself by empowering Truth Broadcast Network. Remember to contact us with your username so we can allow your profile privileges to post.
Hey, what's up everybody? I got another message for the NWO. I got a new song coming at you. I had a lot of fun making this one. I made the beat from scratch and everything. I'm just trying to use their pop culture techniques to infiltrate their system. So enjoy this one. It's a bit of a parody. Cause ain't got shit on me. Fuck off if you're my enemy. It's middle fingers up. These stooges think they own us all, but they don't really know it all. So suck these nuts. Suck a dick and die, bitch, ain't shit. Think you own the world, but you don't know shit. You don't know me, that's for cheesy. You don't know me like Jerry Springer, but you don't know, I know you're scared. You're like, what if people started to care? Cause we got guns, you know like the fact we fight. Suck a dick and die. You in They want us all to be nation free, a new world order, no one free. It's middle fingers up. These fools think that they got a plan, but it don't fail like Vietnam. So suck these nuts. Yo, bitch, don't spy on nigga, no. I'll snatch your eye like the chicken kill bell. And it's your last one left, Illuminati. Not your mind, not your body, not your cheese. Taco party, and you're not invited, sorry, yeah. Now we got a fiesta, you're gonna shit your pants when the people rise up. Suck So who these motherfuckers think that they are? They wanna take our guns and they wanna take our cars. They wanna have us walking around barefoot, man, like a wildlife preserve, but we serving them. And they some mess up eugenical fucks. They wanna decide who you gon' fuck. They wanna determine who has kids. And China is a blueprint for their plans. But fuck that shit and fuck the religion. I won't worship environmentalism. I mean, it's all cool if you wanna send the trees, but only without enslaving me. So say the grief, just give up. People already are waking up. You on the other hand shaking up. I'll tell you one last time what to suck. Suck a dick and die. All you in W all time.
All right, welcome back to Truth Broadcast Network. That was a bit vulgar, but this is a war, and I don't have a lot of pity for people who say they are offended by this, that, or the other thing, failing to understand the stakes that we're dealing with here. This is life or death, and not just for one person, even one nation. One race. We're talking about the entire world here, and just as we who are awakening are joining with other peoples, other nations, other languages, other races. I mean, the evil ones came together long before we did. A lot of people will tend to say, oh, it's the Jews. But if in your awakening you can fight the New World Order alongside a Jew and a Muslim, what makes you think that the evil people don't have the same rationale going on in their heads? Except it's, if we want to have complete control and domination over the entire planet, we need to come together with all tribes, all nations, all tongues. And of course that's exactly what's happening. And I imagine they talk about how they need to rise above the limitations of their individual nation states, rise above the limitations of their individual religions, belief systems, and come together, unify under one giant great umbrella so that they can control the entire world. We don't have the luxury of dividing and conquering ourselves, or allowing someone else to divide and conquer us. And that's what the television is for. That's exactly what the television is for. If you still have a television in your home, if you still have cable coming into your home, I hate to say it, but you are not awake. I mean, I for a long time wanted the cable shut off. And I remember I would tell my wife, we got to shut it off. We need to shut it off. And we were debating it. I wanted it off. She didn't. But she would kind of agree to it. And I'd get mad every time the TV came on. And I remember every night I'd go to bed, I would unscrew the cable from the back of the TV. Just to make the point. It needs to be shut off. I don't want this playing in my house. I get up the next day and it was plugged back in because she was watching it. Finally, I think it was when I got off of a medication I was on that was obviously drugging me a little too much. I was like, I'm getting rid of this crap. And I took it back to the cable company and told them, you take this back, shut my cable off. And, I asked her and she says she doesn't miss it at all. She's glad we don't have it. So, I've never heard of anyone who regretted shutting off their cable. Cable is a brilliant scheme by the New World Order to vomit lies into everyone's living room, to keep everyone living under the strong delusion and to maintain a solid control control over everyone. That's what cable is for. And if you have not done so yet, you've got to shut it off.
Hi, my name is Paul Applewhite. I'm on the board of directors for the Pacific chapter of the Association for Unmanned Vehicle Systems International. We're a trade organization that works on unmanned systems. In the Pacific Northwest, we represent 80 companies, 1,400 employees, and about $120 million in taxable revenue. That sounds big. I personally own a company with 3 people. We have a styrofoam airplane that we're developing to deliver humanitarian supplies. We're very much against this in that it is separating, say, what we've already stated, helicopters from unmanned systems. The backlash against unmanned vehicles has just caused the city of Seattle to cancel their unmanned systems. Back in May of 2012, you had Ian Stawicki, who ran around and killed 5 people. The longer this man was running around the city of Seattle, the more people he was killing. He pulled somebody out of his car, executed this individual.
Now, does this sound at all familiar? Because this should directly remind you of the Dorner case that we just had. Bear in mind, here on Truth Broadcast Network, I wrote an article, I did a broadcast entitled, "Is the Dorner PSYOP Leading to a Drone Strike?" You understand? What we have here is a lobbyist in Washington, D.C. who should be shot in the face, as he uses another incident of somebody running around killing people in order to argue that we need drones flying over our skies. Bear in mind, Dorner's body has never been positively identified. For all we know, that was all a bunch of bullshit. A PSYOP. In order to get the American people to say, yeah, we do need drones. We do need drones, because you never know when somebody's going to go crazy and start killing people. So we got to have drones. We need to be able to assassinate American citizens with no trial. No jury. That's the argument being made. I realize it might seem a little dry, but bear in mind as you watch this video, which I will restart, bear in mind as you watch this video, this guy is making the argument that we need drones in our skies to kill American citizens with no trial. Bear in mind that we've now undergone another, what looks like a psychological operation to get people to believe along the same lines, that we need drones to execute, assassinate American citizens. That's what we're looking at here. It can hardly be denied.
Hi, my name is Paul Applewhite. I'm on the board of directors for the Pacific chapter of the Association for Unmanned Vehicle Systems International. We're a trade organization that works on unmanned systems. In the Pacific Northwest, we represent 80 companies, 1,400 employees, and about $120 million in taxable revenue. That sounds big. I personally own a company with 3.
Now you see how he says, oh, and $120 million in taxable revenue. Now I got to go on screen for this. Look, I mean, I've explained to you how the Supreme Court Kelo decision specifically said, well, yeah, although Americans, supposedly have property rights, it's okay to confiscate property if the government is going to make more money taxing whatever they turn the property into. In other words, it's okay to steal. It's okay to steal as long as the government makes money. In this case, it's okay to assassinate American citizens because, hey, this is a major corporation with $120 million in taxable income. Why is he even saying that? Unless it's about the money. I'll try to back it up just a couple seconds so that you can hear that again, because, I mean, it's just unbelievable that he even said that. But, of course, most people cannot or will not pay attention long enough to really get any of this.
In taxable revenue. Represent 80 companies, 1,400 employees, and about $120 million in taxable revenue. That sounds big. I personally own a company with 3 people. We have a styrofoam airplane that we're developing to deliver humanitarian supplies. We're very much against this in that it is separating, say, what we've already stated, helicopters from unmanned systems. The backlash against unmanned vehicles has just caused the city of Seattle to cancel their unmanned systems. Back in May of 2012, you had Ian Stawicki, who ran around and killed 5 people. The longer this man was running around the city of Seattle, the more people he was killing. He pulled somebody out of his car, executed this individual in front of a crowd. My daughter, her school went into lockdown. To have this technology to just simply put over a school to say, we've got this school safe for now, or we can tell if somebody's coming in. Why are we denying ourselves this great technology that's now available? I'm also worried about, say, one of these parked over the top of my house and being used for surveillance by an overzealous government. I think that is a great issue, but you're adding reporting requirements that you're not adding on helicopters.
Now, bear in mind, as he's advocating drones over top United States cities, that in the hunt for Robert Dorner, or whatever his name was, some Dorner, they literally shot 4 innocent civilians. Do you think they're going to be any more accurate with drones clean up in the sky? It's not going to be police officers with 9mm, you know, a couple feet away, saying, I think that's him, boom, 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 boom. It's going to be a drone in the sky with a missile blowing up an entire vehicle and killing everybody in it. Oh, well, it turns out that wasn't him. Now to the weather. Back to you, Chuck, with the weather. This is an escalation. This is an arms race here on American soil, and people are gonna die. Drones should be illegal. Anybody advocating the use of drones on American soil should be shot in the face.
You're having to get permission that you're not having to do with any other systems out there. Just by saying, if you pull this thing out of its box and use it, you have to fill out a report. It's onerous. You're asking kind of an undue requirement for police departments. They can be also used for something as simple as, you know, here's a large traffic accident on the interstate. We just want to document what cars where, who did what, and just take a photograph of it. And this bill kind of precludes that from ever happening. I believe it was Representative Clippert that said, you know, what if we just want to go and look over a bunch of cars and just to see if there's criminal activity, and you get into, well, which is first, the chicken or the egg? Is there criminal activity present, or are we looking for criminal activity that we suspect will occur? We urge you to vote against this. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Appleton.
Quick question. Do you, and anybody can answer it on the panel, do you think that this actually is related in a lot of ways to one-party consent, which we don't have in this state? We have two-party consent. And so having a new technology, which we've never used before, don't you think there should be some sideboards in such a way till we know where the technology is going and how it is used?
My opinion is that the way that we're currently using drones in warfare, we have moved away from indiscriminate killing to discriminate killing. And we now have basically a star chamber set up that can pinpoint somebody on the other side of the planet and zap that individual.
Okay, I'm sorry. Did he just literally say that they had a star chamber? He literally said it. A star chamber is a group of people who say, okay, they meet in secret in their star chamber. And they say, okay, we're going to kill this guy. It's illegal, it's unconstitutional, and it is criminal. And he just admitted to it. He just fucking admitted to it on, what is this? C-SPAN or something? I don't know. He just admitted to having a star chamber.
And how it is used.
My opinion is that the way that we're currently using drones in warfare, we have moved away from indiscriminate killing to discriminate killing. And we now have basically a star chamber set up that can pinpoint somebody on the other side of the planet and zap that individual. And that makes a lot of people nervous, including myself. What are the controls over that? And I think a lot of people are nervous on that regards of who's governing that, who's in control of it, who gets to decide what person gets zapped on the other side of the planet, and I think that is a legitimate concern. But this is saying we have a technology that if we have an Ian Stawicki running around the city, we can park and go see if he's in the back of an alley, and go for our law enforcement that have to now travel down this alley and be surprised by whatever they find, instead of saying, let's look behind what's on the other side of this wall, what's on the other side of this building, what's on the other side of this block, and give that law enforcement officer the information that he needs.
Well, I believe we're accepting those types of situations. That would be, if there's a crime in progress, we would have exigent circumstances allowing for the use of this technology.
But if you're saying an emergency, if you have, say, an Alzheimer patient that wanders off, is that an emergency?
Yeah, that would be a threat to individual personal safety.
What if it's good weather? I mean, what if your child wanders off? Is that an emergency?
It could be, yeah. Could be, absolutely. We're talking when there's a threat to human life or injury, whether it's search and rescue, a crime in progress.
But every time you pull this out, you have to now document it, which to me discourages the use of it. We give our police, our law enforcement officials, we do a careful screening, a lot of training, and each one of them has lethal force on their hip. And we're saying we give them the judgment to be able to pull this thing out and use it, up to and including lethal force. Why is this technology so much different to say you've got it in your trunk, pull it out, use it now?
Well, I mean, words can hardly begin to describe a man who sits there in front of government official and openly admits that they have a star chamber.
Truth Broadcast Network may contain copyrighted material, the use of which has not always been specifically authorized by the copyright owner. We make this available in our efforts to advance understanding of criminal justice, political, human rights, economic, scientific, and social justice issues. This constitutes a fair use of any such copyrighted material as provided for in Section 107 of the U.S. Copyright Law. In accordance with Title 17 U.S.C. Section 107, the material on this site is distributed without profit to those who have expressed a prior interest in receiving the information.
All right, and we are back. You're listening to Death to the New World Order with Hardcore Harry on Truth Broadcast Network. And I think there's something important we need to discuss here as we all march into this New World Order. Some of us obviously unwillingly, and some of us are going to fight tooth and nail. But what about the others? You know, there are a lot of people who know what's going on or have a very good clue but want to pretend like they don't know. You know, it's like they have the notion that if they pretend they don't know what's going on, they won't be held responsible by the people around them for allowing it to happen. Or maybe they feel that, you know, they're going to be judged one day for allowing it to happen, but as long as they pretend they don't know, and they're pretending to themselves, that they won't ever be held responsible. Of course, they're wrong about that, and I really can't understand that mindset. You know, Americans have literally been, you know, I have wolves. I have wolves for a reason. Dogs, through eugenics, have been downbred to specialize in different areas. I mean, a lot of people don't understand this, but the reason a bloodhound's legs are so short, a basset hound, is that they want that nose on the ground at all times. It's just a part of, hey, we want the perfect animal for finding people following a blood trail. Well, what's step one? Get their nose on the ground. So dogs, through thousands of years, have been genetically altered in order to specialize in specific tasks. And when somebody specializes in something, whether it's a doctor going to college and they become a neurosurgeon, then they learn about one specific part of the brain, and then they specialize in just doing this one very specific surgery in this one very specific part of the brain, and that's all they do. That's all they know. And if you go to that doctor and say, you know, my foot's really hurting me, he might not have a clue on the face of the earth, because all he knows is that one specialty that he has been trained in, that he is obsessed with. The same applies to these dogs. So your basset hound, your bloodhound, for instance, when it comes to a general intelligence, a general idea of what's going on, well, he can't even see 1 foot. He can't even see 1 foot high. His eyes are like 8 inches off the ground. In other words, when you specialize, you lose out. You lose out on the big picture. And that's why I have wolves that actually have all of the original instinct, much of which has been bred out of your average dog. And the same thing is obviously going on with mankind, where we are being taught specialties. We're being trained like dogs to obsess about material wealth, or to idolize a singer or a celebrity, an actor. Oh, I got to go see every movie that this person ever made. And as this happens to us, which is all conditioning, it's all training, and, you know, strong people, strong-willed people, I believe, feel deep down inside, something's wrong here. Something is wrong here. All my friends, I mean, I've several times, why is everybody obsessing about this Twilight movie? Something is wrong here. You know, I go to the movie theater, and it's like packed, and there's even an RV in the parking lot with a big sign on it about the Twilight movie. Something is wrong there. It's just a freaking movie. They're just actors. And I think a lot of us have had moments like that where we're looking around at other people saying, these people are unnaturally motivated to engage in this activity, and that doesn't just happen on its own. That means that there is conditioning put into place through the various avenues that the New World Order uses to reach the sheeple. We see it every year during Black Friday. People don't just get up one day and say, you know, I think today I'm going to get up and I'm going to go to the store and I'm going to trample people and fucking kill them to get to an Xbox. But this is what we see every year. On that day, people get up before the sun comes up, get in long lines, some of them stay in tents from the night before. And when the doors open, they run in like a stampede of fucking ignorant animals. That means those people have been conditioned to engage in that activity. Just exactly the same as a basset hound has been bred over thousands of years to specialize in following a blood trail. It means that someone somewhere else got the notion to make that happen. Now, sometimes these people are thinking for the overall general good of mankind, it would be best if we had a dog that could follow a blood trail really well. But sometimes they're thinking, in order to enrich ourselves, in order to become like God, we must control the minds of men. Excuse me. And I think that it is almost ritualistic how every Black Friday, I mean, they line people up almost like rats in a cage. I mean, that's like what the stores are with the aisles and the different setups in the middle. It's like unleashing a stampede of rats into various cages so they can run in there and compete. That's what we're seeing, folks. Only these people, of course, have no rage. And that's largely what separates them from us. We see what's going on and we become enraged. And even if, you know, people don't express it in the way that I do. I mean, I know I get a little bit loud. I curse a little bit, and I'm working on that. But a lot of people don't express it like that. They see what's going on and they're enraged on the inside. And it motivates them to do something like tune into this show or pass some information around Facebook or talk to a neighbor. That's where it starts. That's where it all starts. And when you do these things, you are rising above the conditioning. And make no mistake about it, it's just like riding a bike. You do it and you're going to fall. You're going to fail. It's going to happen. And you get back up on the bike and you ride it again. And you fall and you get back up on it. And next thing you know, it's like natural to you. It's like nothing. I'm sitting here looking into a camera talking. I'm not looking at people. I'm looking into a camera. But it's natural to me now. I'm reaching out. I'm reaching people. And the same applies to everyone everywhere who does anything to work against the New World Order. I go to New York and, I hand out flyers and that 95% of the population walks by, and of course they're operating under the pretense that you are engaged in some kind of activity in order to make money, but you're rejected 95% of the time. And they'll kind of look away like you're, like you got polio or something, in order to avoid your flyer. And it's interesting because last time I was in New York, I backed the camera up and had Robert Eric kind of do it, and I zoomed in. And I kid you not, we ought to put that on the network one day with some music, but he looked like he was passing drugs. I mean, he's an expert. I'm going to do that one day. But of course, most of the time, people refuse the information, just like...
Truth Broadcast Network is not...
I'm going to seize control of this network and move this network break. Because I can. And I'm tired of getting run over. I think that all the broadcasters on the network, and I'm going to talk a little bit right now about the network, are going to go about things a little bit differently. I'm not going to devise one system and say everybody has to do it exactly this way. But there's going to be certain qualifications for a broadcaster to reach a certain level. And when they reach a certain level, they're going to be a premier broadcaster. They're going to be on an HD channel and so on. They're going to have their own website, which I will provide the hosting for, and things are going to go from there. I told you I will turn this into a social network. I don't know if our current server will be able to handle that, but if it can, it will. And if it can't, we'll get an improved server in the future. The code that I've been waiting for to come out to turn Truth Broadcast Network into a social network is out, but it is in beta. And I've been monitoring people who are using it, and there are some technical problems they're having. I'm going to wait a little while until they work out the technical problems with the code, at which point I will add social networking to the network. I'm just wondering, am I going to bog the network down doing that? But, that's why they make faster servers, right? All right, so I forget what I was talking about. Let's have a break.
Truth Broadcast Network is not responsible for the content of independent broadcasters. We are a loose affiliation of activists bonded together by our common struggle. As such, the network is here to act as a central hub for truth activism. The network is here to aid both those creating content and those searching for it. All broadcasters act independently and they connect through the network. Broadcasters have no control over the network and the network has no control over them. There is no liability on the part of any broadcaster for any action or statement that is not their own.
What sort of a financial deal should Obama be seeking to strike when he travels to China next month?
No, I think this would be the time, because you really need to bring China into the creation of a new world order, financial world order. They are kind of reluctant members of the IMF. They play along, but they don't make much of a contribution because it's not their institution. Their share is not commensurate. Their voting rights are not commensurate to their weight. So I think you need a new world order that China has to be part of the process of creating it, and they have to buy in. They have to own it the same way as, let's say, the United States owns the Washington Consensus, the current order. And I think this would be a more stable one where you would have a coordinated policies. I think the makings of it are already there, because the G20, in agreeing to peer reviews, effectively is moving in that direction.
Given this continued weakness in the U.S. economy, are people right to start to be concerned about the dollar?
Well, they are, of course, and the dollar is a very weak currency except for all the others. So there is a general sort of lack of confidence in currencies, and a move away from currencies into real assets. The Chinese are continuing to run a big trade surplus, and they're still accumulating assets, and basically the renminbi is permanently undervalued because it's tied to the dollar. There is a diversification from assets that normally held by central banks into other assets, especially in the area of commodities. So there is a push in gold, there's a strength in oil, and that is in a way a flight from currencies.
Is there going to be sort of a tipping point, a moment at which the dollar is fatally weakened, or does it just sort of carry on?
Well, it's difficult as long as as long as the renminbi is tied to the dollar. I don't see how the decline in the dollar can go too far. Now, of course, to some extent, it's very helpful, because with the U.S. consumers saving more and spending less, exports can be a way for the U.S. economy to be balanced. So an orderly decline of the dollar is actually desirable.
Does it at some point need also to decline against the renminbi? Does there need to be some sort of a new global currency deal?
Yes. No, I believe that basically the system is broke and needs to be reconstituted. We cannot afford to have the kind of chronic and mounting imbalances in international finance. So you need a new currency system, and actually the special drawing rights do give you the makings of a system. And I think it's ill-considered on the part of the United States to resist the wider use of special drawing rights. They could be very, very useful now when you have a global shortfall of demand. You could actually internationally create currency through special drawing rights. And this is we've done it. We issued $250 billion. And that's a very, very useful step. Except the rich countries don't actually need the additional reserves. So all they can do is put it in the shop window and say, we have got that much extra, but they can't actually use it. Now, I think it could be used. It could be used to provide global public goods. The rich countries could put their allocations in escrow. The problem is that there is a cost to using SDRs. It's a very small cost at the moment. It's only less than 0.5%, but still is a cost. So somebody has to pay it. And I think we have actually the means to do it, because the IMF has very large gold reserves, and kept in the books at a very low price. And it has been decided to use those gold reserves to the benefit of the least developed countries. So the IMF could actually pick up the cost of paying for the special drawing rights.
Using its gold reserves.
And in fact it's being done. It hasn't gotten any publicity. But I understand that in Istanbul a deal was signed where I think the UK and France actually transferred $2 billion of their SDRs, or $2 billion worth, or 2 billion SDR worth, or to the least developed countries, and the IMF picks up the cost. So it's a road that's already been used, and it could be used on a larger scale.
And what about the American concern that aiding and abetting this move away from the dollar as the world's reserve currency ultimately means a weakening of the U.S. economy?
It is not necessarily in our interest to have the dollar as the sole world currency, because as the world economy grows, it needs additional currency. And if the dollar is that additional currency, it means that the U.S. has to have a chronic current account deficit. And that is not appropriate. So I think it's in our interest as well to reform the system. I think this is a healthy, if painful, adjustment that the world has to go through.
If America doesn't actively take part in this sort of renegotiation of global finance, what will happen? What's your nightmare scenario?
Well, the Chinese will go bilateral. They already do it. They already have a clearing arrangement with Argentina, and I think they're working on one with Brazil, and you will find that there will be more and more bilateral arrangements. So the dollar will remain the main international currency, but its use will decline. So I think that a world of bilateral relations is less desirable than a continuation of a multilateral system. But the system we have now has actually broken down, only we haven't quite recognized it. And so you need to create a new one. And this is the time to do it.
In the United States, how worried are you about the budget deficit and maybe about the possibility of inflation?
Well, certainly a decline in the value of the dollar is necessary in order to compensate for the fact that the U.S. economy will remain rather weak, will be a drag on the global economy. China will emerge as the motor replacing the U.S. consumer. And of course it's a smaller motor because the Chinese economy is much smaller. So the world economy will have less of a motor. So it will move forward slower than it has in the last 25 years. But China will be the engine driving it forward, and the U.S. will be actually a drag that's being pulled along through a gradual decline in the value of the dollar. So there would be a slow decline in the value of the dollar, a managed decline. And that would be the adjustment that it needs to be accomplished. Now, it could actually get out of hand. And certainly the fear of inflation will precede inflation itself.
All right, so some pretty dry content there, but that was, of course, George Soros about how the New World Order is controlling our money supply, and I realize he doesn't use the term New World Order, and this is what allows them plausible deniability. It allows others to say, well, hey, you're a conspiracy theorist because you talk about the New World Order, but what are we going to do? I mean, the New World Order consists of literally thousands of people in I don't know how many sectors of society, and you can't, I mean, it's like the term genocide, okay? The New World Order wants to depopulate the planet, all races. Genocide means to kill somebody because they are of a specific race. There is no word for killing everybody, depopulating the planet, aside from our ad hoc depopulation. And so New World Order is the ad hoc term for this collective group of people that are carrying out these agendas. And a lot of people don't understand this goes way, way back. I mean, we've had people exposing this for decades. I mean, look how far back G. Edward Griffin was doing it. And he's still alive. There's a lot of people don't know that. I mean, honestly, when I saw his first video, which was an old video, and he looked old in that video, I thought, well, this guy's probably long dead. G. Edward Griffin's still alive. He's actually a friend of mine on Facebook. It's crazy. And he exposed some things, but he exposed them in a very cut and dry way. He didn't talk about the New World Order and they're evil and we gotta do this or that. I mean, it was more very detailed explanation of fractional reserve banking, for instance. And so they didn't really go after him in the way that they went after Fritz Springmeier or Bill Cooper or John Todd, or the way they'll probably end up going after me. But it's not in me to do things in a cut and dry manner. I've got to be aggressive. I've got to show aggression because I'm trying to inspire others to rise up and resist. That's what this show is all about. That's why it's called Death to the New World Order. That's one of the reasons I do it heavily armed. The other reason is because, yeah, I know eventually they're probably going to try to shut me down one way or another, and I'm not going out there and committing crimes. So they're either going to frame me or they're going to kill me. That's something I've accepted a long time ago. And I told my family when I hit 40, I couldn't believe it. I literally was in disbelief. I never expected that I would make it to 40, but I mean, I've been through several police standoffs. And so I mean, one of the cops even said, after one of the standoffs, he said, I would have shot him, but the dog was there. He said that publicly. I would have shot him, but the dog was there. Bear in mind, I never committed a single crime. Nothing. But he would have killed me if the dog wasn't there. It has been an interesting life to lead, that's for sure. And that's all I'm trying to do, is inspire other people to rise up and resist in their own rights, in their own ways. That's what it's all about, because, I mean, look, Bill Cooper was shot down in 2001, November 5th or November 6th, 2001. And I know he was doing everything he could to reach out and inspire others to rise up, which really began with the education. And, of course, we all know his broadcasts on the mystery religion that were so important. And he said point blank when he did that broadcasts, he said, those of you who really understand what I'm talking about understand that by doing this broadcast, I am sealing my fate. And of course he did. And you know, anytime they go after one of us, it'll be under the guise, well, they were just trying to enforce a court order, or they were just trying to make an arrest due to tax evasion, or just, I mean, they make up anything. They'll make up anything. It doesn't matter. And most of the sheeple will believe them. After one of the standoffs I had in Jacksonville, Florida, somebody in my neighborhood was actually walking around saying, I can't believe we had a terrorist living in our neighborhood. Well, what made me a terrorist? Because the police came after me and I had machine guns in my home, that makes me a terrorist? Because that's pretty low qualifications. People get arrested every day who have guns in their home. Are they all terrorists? Because the police put a tank in my yard, maybe? Is that what made me a terrorist? So in other words, the government, if they overreact, if they get ridiculous, If they evacuate a community, well, then it must be a terrorist. But what more can we expect from people who just watch television? They get their information from the television. It's all they have. It's all they get. How could they possibly know what's really going on? They can't. There's no way. And let's face it, in part, it's our faults, because at that point in time in my life, I wasn't reaching out to my neighbors. I wasn't educating the people around me. I just wasn't. I was in my home, doing my hacking, learning my programs, learning about the New World Order, but I hadn't reached the point. I mean, I had a website, coverup.us, and I was exposing truth, but I really wasn't real world with it at that point in time. Now, if something happened now, I think people would, I think they got him. But back then, no. Nobody really knew what I was doing or why I was doing it. I was just considered probably somebody that just didn't come out of the house much. And it's kind of funny because I literally had aluminum foil over all the windows. And the police were out there with their spanking new tank that everybody paid for with some super bright spotlight. Let me tell you, light does not pass through aluminum foil. And they're calling me on the phone. And they actually said, "Do you see our tank out here?" I was like, "No. You can't look out the window. It's aluminum foil on it." They're like, "You don't see our tank?" I was like, "No, I don't see your fucking tank. And I don't care about it either." I mean, it was hilarious. I didn't have the ability to record the phone conversations themselves, but it was funny. I think that really the problem is that when the control structure realizes there's somebody who has no fear of death, that's a threat to them. They control people through fear. You have to be afraid, and you have to keep the people in a state of fear. And that's why we have fear-mongering in the truth movement. Constantly. Just like the video that I showed you yesterday about the chemtrails, okay? You got to be afraid of HAARP. You got to, get disinformation on 100 different things every day. Constant fear, 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 fear. Never actually think, you know what? I think this stuff is all bullshit, and that they're actually weak, cowardly, scared people hiding. Look, I've been to Washington, D.C. You know how these people get in and out of the buildings? They don't walk up the steps like everybody else. They literally go down underneath those buildings and drive out in their bulletproof limousines onto underground highways. And they have checkpoints on their underground highways. These evil people live in fear. And they live in fear of us. That's the way that it is. That's not the way it should be. That's the way that it is. They are deathly afraid of us. And they're most afraid of the people who are not afraid of them. And you've got to become that person that's not afraid of them. When you see a police officer, don't look the other way. Don't think, "Oh, I better walk the other way just because I'm afraid of this cop." No, you walk straight up to that cop and use him like a fucking telephone book. Ask him where the nearest liquor store is, even if you don't drink. Just to make the point to him that you don't give a flying fuck if he knows that you drink. They're public servants. They're there to serve you, and you make them serve you. So they don't get some kind of fucking attitude and think they can walk up to you and start interrogating you and asking you questions. As soon as they even walk towards you, walk straight towards them and start asking them questions. That's what we have to do. We don't have a choice. Well, I think, I've got to start rolling out. We have, of course, Stephen Roberts coming up next, and he always puts on a good show. And lately he has been exposing the fallacies, the logical fallacies, and crucial information. So I'm going to go ahead and roll out with a tune. And coming up next on Truth Broadcast Network, Stephen Roberts. I am out for the night. Death to the New World.
We would like to thank all who tune in, and especially all who bring others to the network so that we can unplug them from the false reality. Remember, you can show people how to tune in on their cell phones by searching their internet radio application for TBN. Truth Broadcast Network would especially like to thank its tireless broadcasters who sacrifice their time, energy and resources working against the enemy. There is a price to pay for their selfless effort enlightening the world. Thus we thank broadcasters, and ask the audience to be supportive by spreading the word about the live broadcasts and spreading the archives as much as possible.